Hi, I'm Christian.
And I'm Angela, and we are married
And bored. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 13 of the Married and Bored podcast.
Yay, friends. We're happy to be talking with you again, and this time about another game.
Yes, that is what we do here.
We're not repeating any yet.
No, we're still doing new games, which I often wonder this, if we'll ever run out of games.
Not possible.
Will we run out of money before we run out of games?
That's the kicker.
Yeah, at the rate that I go, quite possible. We want to welcome you to this new episode again. We're here to talk about games, what's been going on with us, talk about our relationship.
As always. And Christian, I know we've talked maybe once or twice before. Can you tell everyone what you're snacking on and drinking this episode?
You love this, don't you?
I do, because I'm just looking at what is laid out before him.
Yeah, so I usually try to have treats while we do this. I do have some beer.
Okay, that's not so abnormal.
Nope, it's in a mug. But then I was like, you know what I'm craving? I'm craving some candy. And the only candy that we had in the pantry was Starburst. And I grabbed a handful of Starburst, and then I thought to myself, am I going to be unwrapping these the whole episode? And then you'd hear crinkly paper the whole time. So no.
What did you do?
I unwrapped about 13 Starbursts for episode 13.
And they're all sitting on a fancy plate.
In the kitchen, and I brought them in on a fancy plate.
Well, I think this will go okay then. There won't be any unwrapping. However, I wonder about the chewing going on.
Maybe I'll pull a filling too, and then I'll have to stop the show for that.
So if you hear any just lip smacking chewing, it's Christian over here. I have already finished my drink of choice, which was a coffee, the opposite of your beer.
Yeah. That's what we are, opposites, right?
So sit back, grab your favorite drink, treat. Feel free to unwrap all 13 of your Starbursts and have them ready to go.
Yeah, or more.
Or more.
That's right.
Here we go. Let's dive in. What is up with you these past couple weeks, Christian?
Man, what is up? I mean, the honest answer is not a whole lot.
Well, we always want you to be honest with us.
And hopefully that's probably the same for all you guys out there. We've been home. We've been doing the social distance, the shelter in place, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, there's a difference between shelter in place and shelter at home. Someone told me that. I'm not quite certain what the difference is, but I think we're at shelter at home.
Okay, yeah, and in Arizona, that's where we are. I don't know what's going on. We're just not going outside. We're not going out. We're doing we're following the rules, trying to make this thing go away. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, we're obviously doing stuff inside. We're doing this podcast and we're playing some games. And to touch on that, I have not really been in the gaming mood since this whole thing started.
It's been very sad, but I think I understand.
Do you? Because I don't think I do.
Well, not with games, but with reading. So just one sentence of background. I usually read quite a bit.
Okay, so that's your...
over 60 books a year.
Okay. Wow.
And, I'm just saying, so people have perspective. So I haven't been as into reading. Mm-hmm. Maybe I just can't settle my mind down enough or something.
Yeah, I'm wondering if anyone else out there is experiencing the same thing, of something that maybe brings you joy, Marie Kondo. Obviously we do this podcast about games, so games are very important to us. And I find myself after work being at home all day, in my office all day. And it's great. I get to have lunch with you and the kids.
Yep.
We're all together all the time. Most of the time, that's awesome.
It's okay.
And if everyone out there is doing it as well, you know what I'm talking about. Then at the end of the night, it's like, I don't know if I want to spend 2 hours playing, Rebellion or Marvel. I just, for whatever reason, it doesn't sound fun.
It's kind of sucking the fun out of a hobby for you for some reason.
And maybe it's just like a hot, cold season, and this is the cold part, and it just happens to fall right at the same time as all this. But yeah, it's just really weird. Like, I'm happy to be here and talk about the game we're going to talk about. But beyond what we played there, I haven't been playing all that much.
Yeah, and you've been playing games probably once a week still. Mm-hmm. It's just that's way less than what you normally do.
Oh, yeah, we were like 3, 4,
Yeah.
5, 6, maybe even 7 times a week.
7 times a week?
I don't think we've ever done that many games. But so, on the opposite side of that, I did do an impulse buy this week on Amazon.
Because when you're not really feeling playing games, the best thing to do is just buy a new game.
That's right. Of course. You know me.
I know.
I had, and to be fair, I had a birthday gift card, burned in a hole in my wallet.
In the hole.
It was getting so hot in there
Yeah.
that I had to pull the trigger on something. And we have had so many people tell us that we need to play this game. Mm-hmm. And for us, it would mean play this game again because we had it years ago when it first came out. And that's Arkham Horror, the card game.
Yeah.
So I just grabbed a core set on Amazon with that gift card, and I've played it. We've played it like 3 times.
It's been the anomaly in his board game rut.
Yeah, and I actually tried playing it solo once, which is not what I normally do. And
I was so proud of him.
I just really wanted to play this game for whatever reason, so that not for whatever reason, but for the reasons that people said on our Instagram. So shout out to My Arms Colder Than Yours on Instagram. He kept on pushing hard for this one, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I have to agree, I'm having a lot of fun learning this game all over again.
So bravo. This might have brought him slightly out of his rut.
Yeah, it did bring me a little bit of gaming joy this past week.
Isn't that nice?
So yeah, it's been fun. I'm really interested in what we can do beyond the core box, whether that's expansions or the new things that are coming from Fantasy Flight with those like little investigator packs. I think that's more interesting to me now than it was 10 days ago when I didn't have this game. So yeah, and so I've been doing that. I've been doing a little bit of Tabletop Simulator because 'tis the season. You can't get together with the people you normally get together with. Mm-hmm. And I feel the same way about Tabletop Simulator that I do about board games in general right now. It's just there. Like we
really feeling it.
We have to use it, and I understand it. Angela and I played Mansions of Madness.
Mansions of Madness?
with some good friends of ours a week ago. And we did have a good time, but there's just something missing about the whole thing.
Sure.
Where Angela and I are sitting on our computer, and our friends are sitting at their computer, and it's just not what board games are supposed to be.
Oh, yeah, it's true. I mean, we get why it's like the least worst thing because we can't see each other, and so if we have to, we'll use it, but it's not
our first choice. No. And it is the sign of the times, I guess. Mm-hmm. I do enjoy it for just dinking around with games I don't have, if there's a mod for that. Like, okay, so let's see what Nemesis is about. Now, I'm not going to read the 97-page rulebook for Nemesis, but I got to look
That does not seem right up your alley at all.
So I got to, like, see what all the cards looked like, the chits, the stuff, and just see what a game layout would look like and mess around with that. And there's other games that have done that too as well. So I do get some sort of, like, entertainment out of that. But, yeah, it's still not the way I prefer to play games, but I'm here to do it, and I will do it some more.
That was quite a big update. You shared your heart.
Yes.
And you let us in to that side of you. You know what you should do?
I'm gonna have an
treat yourself.
I'm gonna have an unwrapped Starburst.
Treat yourself
Angela?
with a Starburst. Oh no! Now he's chomping. Okay.
What's up with you?
He can't say it, so I'll just jump in. Okay. Well, recently on Instagram, I think it was at Hero of the Meeple, tagged us in a challenge that was, I think it was called the COVID Game Challenge or COVID Challenge, something like that.
There's so many COVID challenges.
You know, to bring a game to the table that you haven't opened on your shelf. And it kind of took me down the Instagram rabbit trail of like the shelf of shame. I was reading comments and people were like, "Oh yeah, we recently pulled this game off our shelf of shame," and I had to ask Christian, like, "What's a shelf of shame? I've never heard of this." And I mean, most of you are probably laughing, so I will just say I had never heard of that. It's where all the games go that you have never played, correct?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I honestly, I can only assume that's what it was.
I don't know if there's like a rule where it's like if you haven't played it in such a long time that it just re-enters the shelf of shame.
Well, I think there's probably versions. Like some people are like, if I haven't played this game in a year, it's going on the shelf. If I've never opened it, it's going on like if I opened it but didn't play it, like there's a lot of levels there. But my understanding is it's just a game you own but has never played.
Okay, so in this specific challenge was to open and play a game that you have never played that's on your shelf. And we did have one. Because Christian had a birthday at the end of February. And I found Jaws at Target on clearance, so I picked it up for him. And so we did have one that we hadn't played. But it was funny because we, in general, don't have a shelf of shame.
No.
And if you've listened to our episode 10, go back and listen to it if you haven't. We do a little quiz at the end where we...
Oh, that was our 10 show episode anniversary.
Yeah, where Christian has to guess how many games are in our game room here.
Oh my god.
And we have played every single one of those.
At least once.
Yep. Oftentimes, multiple times. And I would say the majority of them are on a regular rotation.
Yeah, we tend to like the games we buy.
Yeah. So the concept of the shelf of shame was very new to me, and I don't know, like I'm curious to hear more. I'm not judging anyone that has a shelf of shame, but why
do they have one?
Yeah, why?
I've been reading up on this topic.
Okay.
Not really.
Well,
I've been thinking about it, and I've read some like articles, not articles, but like threads online or whatever, but like board game people, us included.
Sure, we're part of the community.
Yeah, we get caught up in the hype. I definitely do. Yeah. Of an unreleased game. Mm-hmm. And when it gets released, everyone's like, "Whoa, oh my gosh, look at this game."
So you just buy it.
And you just have to you have to buy it. And there's this weird thing alongside that is that board gamers feel like they have to play every new game that comes out.
Okay.
And if you look at that with like a different hobby, like if your hobby was movies, do you see every movie that comes out every year?
No,
you don't, because you don't have the time.
But you see the ones that are Oscar nominated.
That's right. You see the ones that you want to.
Yeah.
And so like there's a lot of feeling that you need to play everything so that you can be so knowledgeable at all the new games.
Which I guess...
So, like, there's people who are just, like, panic buying. That's not the right term to use today, but...
Right, in the current global situation.
But they're just like, oh my gosh, this Kickstarter is going off the chain. Boom, buying it. And then they get it, and then it's just like, well, I don't have time to play this game that has 1,600 miniatures.
Would you say their gaming eyes are bigger than their gaming stomach?
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe that's what's going on.
Yeah, so that's how I feel about that.
And maybe as we get more and more into the gaming world, like I can tell we're buying games more frequently than we ever have. But we're also playing them. So there isn't a shelf of shame. There wasn't really one to begin with, but now there's definitely not one because now we've played Jaws and we extended the challenge to other people. So that was a new term for me. I'm just mulling that over in my brain, trying to understand that.
Yeah, let me ask you a question then really quick along the same lines.
Well, I wasn't prepared for this question.
I know, that's what I love doing. So you had mentioned that we have so many games back there behind us where we're recording now. If we had to take one or two and put them on a shelf of shame, one that we haven't played maybe as much as you wanted or you're just not interested anymore, and then which ones would those be?
Well, ones that we haven't played in a while, probably over a year.
Yeah.
The Godfather, Corleone's Empire. Corleone?
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
I'll make you an offer you can't refuse.
You sound just like him, yep.
Listen, if you're going to ask me questions, you better be prepared for my off-script answer.
I am prepared.
We haven't played Wasteland Express Delivery Service in probably over a year because that's your fault.
That's true. It's not my favorite.
I don't know.
I would agree with those two, and then I would throw personally Detective on there.
Yeah. Well, now, now that we've experienced Chronicles of Crime and talked about that in a previous episode, so
yeah, just wondering.
That's good. Okay, so maybe we do have a shelf of shame if your criteria is just hasn't been played in the last 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, it can be whatever we want it to be.
All right.
What else is going on?
What else is going on with me? Okay, guys, because Christian has not been that into games, I have been playing a lot of solo games recently, and that's okay. No hard feelings. I have been enjoying working through our current collection in a solo manner, because we have a lot of solo games, even though we didn't necessarily buy them for that reason. There's just a lot to choose from. And spoiler alerts, we're going to be putting out a bonus episode, hopefully this week, that will be about solo gaming experience. And since I am normally the solo gamer, it will probably be Angela heavy. But Christian will still be in here, adding his color commentary as he does.
That's right.
And hey, you mentioned that you played Arkham Horror Solo.
Yeah,
so...
I don't want to talk too much about it because I failed miserably in many ways.
Oh,
not just losing the game, but in other ways as well, as I did it solo. But yeah, I think it's fun. I was looking at our games like we did the other night, and I'm just surprised at how many games these days have a one-player variant. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's kind of required now. Like if you get, unless a game is like specifically made for like 2. But if you're like a 1 to 4 or 1 to 5, like it's so common now.
It is very common.
More so than it used to be.
And just because it says 1 to 4 on the box doesn't mean it offers a great solo experience.
No, that's true.
That's also good to keep in mind. But yeah, can I ask you just with a yes or no?
Okay.
No explaining, because maybe it'll come up in the solo bonus episode. Did I say that right? Solo bonus episode.
Solo bono. Yeah.
Be careful with what I say there. One of the things, I'm going to predict that one of the things you did really wrong in Arkham Horror when you played solo, because just background for all of you out there, I was not in the house. I was out grocery shopping. I'm going to guess that one of the things you did really wrong was that you're not good at keeping track of all the rules when you're the only player.
No.
Really?
No, I was pretty good at keeping track of the rules.
Okay.
But yeah, we can expand on that later.
Okay. Oh, it's a tease. All right. Well, we're going to come back with our main segment where we will be talking about Root.
Root.
That's beautiful. This episode is sponsored by Showit. Hey, Christian, why do we love Showit?
Well, we love it because we are terrible at designing websites.
That is true.
And we were able to make our site using Showit in a couple hours.
Yeah, if you're stuck in like some boring website template, you need to check out Showit and experience what they have to offer. It's really simple. It's drag and drop. And our website, if you've never been there, is beautiful, if I may say so myself.
Yeah, we use Showit to make it, and you can get started for free. Showit.co. Check it out.
All right, guys, we're back for our main segment. We're going to be talking about Root. I'm going to start us off with a little description. Is that okay with you as you chew your Starburst?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Root. This is a competitive game for 2 to 4 players by Leader Games. So shout out to Minnesota, because that is where it's based.
Yeah, St. Paul.
In the game, players take on the role of different forest animal factions who try to be the first to earn 30 victory points by building buildings and spreading their tokens, battling, crafting items, forming alliances in some cases, so on and so forth. Beyond this base game, which is 2 to 4 players, there can also be up to 6 players with 8 different faction choices, and one or more of which can now be automated, like a mechanical player.
Yep.
And because of that, there's also now a solo variant.
What?
Whoop.
What have you been playing the past 2 weeks?
Not gonna tell. Let's see if people can guess. Yeah. So that's the description of what is going on with Root.
Yeah, Root has been a crazy popular game since it came out, I think, in 2018. It flies off the shelf every time it's at one of our local game stores. Mm-hmm. I think we've seen it in stock at least probably once, maybe twice at our favorite store. And every time we've gone, we've just been like, ooh, do we get it? Do we not? And then once we decided to buy this game, we couldn't find it.
Right.
So,
that's true.
Yeah. And if you've played it, you know why. And if you haven't played it, you probably know of it because it is so popular right now.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's break down this game.
Yeah, and again, we'll just touch on this. Why we break it down, we look for 5 areas of a game on why we play it and why
that are important to us.
Yeah, and why a game makes it into our collection and onto our table.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one we like to talk about is the ease of setup and teardown. Angela.
Okay, here are my thoughts. It's not super easy to set up. It's a little bit easier to tear down just because you can scoop components into bags quicker than you can set them out. But there are a lot of components. So there's meeples, there's cards, there's a game board, there are like cardboard chits, there's player boards. There's probably other stuff I'm forgetting off the top of my head.
Cards? Did you say cards?
I said cards, but then like some of the factions have, like I'm thinking of the stones that the otters come with.
Oh yeah, there's so many different things, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. Everyone's setup is different. So there's a game setup, like setting up the game board. But then another thing is that everyone has to set up their own individual faction.
Yeah, and one of the things that makes this game unique is that there are the amount of factions that we mentioned. So if you have the core box, you get 4 factions, and each faction plays this game differently. So in a traditional board game, maybe everyone takes the same actions, right? But in this game, because I'm playing the cats, I play this game way differently than you.
Right, and normally you'd be able to say in a setup like, okay, everyone's going to get 5 cards, everyone's going to put their 5 meeples in these places.
Yep.
Everyone's going to put these tokens on their board in this way. You can't do that with this game.
No, because everyone is so unique.
Some people don't even start with meeples on the board. Some people start with 10 plus meeples on the board.
Yeah. But one thing that this game does do well that helps you set it up is that each of those boards, those faction boards that you get, so if I decide that I want to be Marquis the Cats, I just grab my orange board and I turn it over and it tells me exactly what I need to do.
True.
It does take some, translating if you're new to games on what all that means. Mm-hmm. And it's always good to play this game, I feel, with somebody who's played it before to help speed everything along.
Yeah, which will probably, I'm gonna at least talk more about that in learning how to play, because that's definitely key.
For sure.
One more thing about setting up and tearing down is it's because of the player board Christian was describing, it can get easier mentally to set up. Like you're not constantly looking up how to set up. But because there's so much going on, it's still time consuming. So I've played this game quite a bit since we've gotten it in the last, month? 6 weeks?
Yeah, they had it in stock at the beginning of March, I think. And so we snagged a copy.
Okay, so like 6 weeks-ish.
Yeah.
A little less. So I've been playing this game a lot, and I don't need to refer to the player board or the rule book anymore. You could quiz me right now on how to set up any of the 4 core factions, and I'd probably know how. But that doesn't mean that it takes me any less time. I still have to physically get the components out there, and it does take time.
Yeah, but then at the opposite end of that is if there's one specific faction that you just haven't played very much, like you're still gonna have to read it and figure it out. Like,
yeah,
because there are so many factions and they all are so different. Mm-hmm. I know there are people out there who have it all down. Like that's impressive. Mm-hmm. Like I literally have an award from work that was given to me kind of tongue in cheek, saying that like the game master, because I know all these rules to all these games whenever we have game nights at work. Mm-hmm. Now, to be fair, I'm the person putting on these game nights.
So you better know.
So I have to know all these rules, and I do study before I go there. But like this game blows my mind. Like I have to read a lot to remember what's going on.
So that's how we feel about setup and teardown. It's not for the faint of heart to set up and tear down.
No, but once you get it, it's worth it.
Yeah. Okay. How accessible is learning to play?
Yeah, we are always looking for games that we can introduce to our non-gaming friends, our lighter gaming friends, and then people, like us as well, who are in it deep into games.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where this category comes into play.
And if it's not accessible to learn how to play, it doesn't mean it's a deal breaker. It just means it better have another redeeming quality.
Yeah, for sure. This game is difficult to learn.
It is. It's a lot of mental work. Well, let's start with something we just described. Every single person plays different.
Yes.
Has different mechanics. Now, in a sense, we're all aiming for the same goal. We're all trying to get 30 victory points.
Yeah, everyone has the same goal in this game to get those points. But how you get those points is so different.
It's different. Yep, there's a lot going on, which means that there's a lot of depth and specific strategy to each faction, which is cool. And maybe, perhaps you could say, is an argument for that it's a better game in the long run. But to learn how to play this, I mean, I can't imagine teaching this to a non-gamer.
Hey, do you want to come over and play a game about cute woodland animals? And most people would probably say, okay. And then you throw this one down and you would probably lose a friend.
Yeah, if they're not a gamer, this is not, I don't know. Maybe someone out there has a different opinion on that, but they've got to be ready to have gaming terminology and strategy and just the mental workout that strategy is.
Yeah, unless they're willing to go through it or everybody's on the same page, like you're all learning it together, then maybe. Mm-hmm. But it's a very hard one to introduce to new players.
Mm-hmm. And there's, even for someone who's used to games, there's a certain level of difficulty because no one's working together. So you're gonna throw them this player board, and yes, you can teach them how to play as they go, but you also have to keep track of who you're playing and how to play your person. And
yeah, you kind of have to trust that your other players are doing the right thing, because the first couple times you play, you're so consumed into, what are my lizard cult people doing, and how do I even get points with these guys?
Right.
And you see the cat player is doing the exact same thing. Like, you just have to trust that he's doing it right.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the marks kind of for me, this is probably not like it's 100% true all the time, but just off the top of my head, if a game is really accessible to learn how to play, I don't usually have to refer to the rule book a lot. I am constantly referring to this rule book and looking up things on BGG forums because there is a lot to unpack. I would say I've probably played this wrong in different ways many times. I would say
which I would say is okay.
I know you would. Oh. And I would say there's people out there on BGG that, like me, are playing this game wrong.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, guys. We were first introduced to strategy board games through a bunch of Fantasy Flight games.
Modern board games, yeah.
And maybe it's because we started there that's why I feel this way, but I really dislike the rule book. Sorry.
In Root.
Yeah. I really do. There's 3 of them. I don't even know how to describe what the difference is. One is supposed to be like a rules reference.
The law of Root.
Although it doesn't function like I think a rules reference should function. Like with keywords. And then I'm probably not explaining this well. And then there's a smaller one that like walks you through like some key turn elements that most factions have.
Right.
Albeit at different times and in different ways. And then it kind of walks through, and then there's a smaller book that walks through like 2 full turns, like an extended player example. Mm-hmm. I hate player examples.
Mary takes one cat
goodness.
Moves it to the clearing.
I can't even stand it.
Hernando takes one.
It's just like nails on a chalkboard. I will read player examples just within a standard rule book if I'm really confused about the rule.
Yeah.
But an extended player example like this that walks 4 factions through 2 entire turns, like it was really hard. And I know there's some people out there that just like really like this rule book. So maybe it's based on what I started from. I started from Fantasy Flight that always puts out a learn to play and then a rules reference, and my brain just gets used to that. Mm-hmm. But my brain did not work well with the Root rule book. It's really hard for me to understand this rule book and where things are when I want to look them up.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to find what you need. And this is something that I've also looked into a little bit more. And what Root at its core is a war game. Like, you're battling for area, you're trying to get troops off the board so that you can get your troops on and score more points. And from what I've learned is that a lot of war games out there, this is how their rule books are set up. They're broken down by factions, and everything your faction can do is listed in there, which is how Roots is. It's all broken up by factions, and then they have a few little what do they call it? They call it like key references in the very back, just like key rules that you want to make sure that they get correct. I don't play a lot of war games other than this game, so I don't have any like comparison, but I guess that makes sense. And they've actually said, I think I remember reading somewhere that they made that choice as a designer to do it this way.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know the perspective of a war game.
Yeah, and neither do I. I agree with you. This rulebook, it seems clunky to try to find something quickly.
Gosh, clunky is a great word. Mm-hmm. You know what you need? Treat yourself with the Starburst.
Got it. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. We have been able to find information when we need it. It just takes a little longer, especially when you're first learning, to try to find like, okay, so can I even move this direction? You look and you're like, well, it doesn't say I can't, so I'm gonna do it.
Right.
So.
And I've heard many people on BGG explain to people, like, the answer to their question is just like, if the rule book doesn't say you can't, then you can.
How do you feel about that?
And that really rubs me the wrong way. But that's a whole, I mean...
That's just your rule thing.
Do you guys want me to put out a bonus episode on just rules?
Okay, this is what I think you need to do.
And how I feel about rules.
In a next life, or after this whole quarantine's over, if anyone owns a game company and they need a rule maker or a rule book builder author, there we go, author. You can reach out to us. Angela is
accepting
applications. That'd be a great.
I don't.
Great job for you.
I'm not saying I could make rules.
No,
But
no. Someone else would make the rules, and then you would just write them down.
editor,
Yep.
a rule editor.
Yes.
I would take the red pen and go, circle. I do not understand what this rule is. You need
Clarification.
clarification, or maybe a play tester.
That would be cool too.
Okay, well, this is
Email us at hello@marriedandbored.com. We will playtest anything, and also preview anything.
that is a voice. Wow.
Yeah. So the rule book is clunky. Learning to play is clunky. That's probably the best word. But
If it was smooth for you, we think you're lying. It's fine.
where we are now in this game, it was definitely worth it, which we will talk about later.
He's jumping ahead.
I know. I say the words and I realize we have topics named after that, so I apologize. Number 3.
Okay. How immersive is this experience? So this is big for us. Usually this could be something that redeems a game that's really hard to set up or really hard to learn. If it's very immersive, this can be the thing that keeps us coming back. So, is this game immersive?
Yes. If you want it to be.
Okay.
No, I think there's a lot of layers here. My first note is very descriptive here. It says, pretty immersive.
Christian's a man of few words
Yeah.
when he writes notes.
So there is a story being told. The rule book does a good job of setting the background into what has happened in the forest. The story, it's not a spoiler, is that you're just fighting over this forest in these forest clearings, and that's where all the action happens. Correct?
Yes, and I would say it does a good job of explaining the history of the forest and why certain clans are the way they are. I'm thinking specifically of the one that I usually play, which is the Eyrie. So I guess I can't speak to like is every faction built out and developed? Maybe not. I'm used to playing the one that I always play. So I feel like they do a good job of setting the background story. I'm just thinking of like our last episode 12. Listen in if you haven't. Quacks. There's no character development. There's no.
No, they just kind of tell you who you are.
Yeah,
You're
so-
a potion guy.
So this one takes that. I mean, it's a step further for sure. There's in the immersiveness. There's a story being told. There's a reason why the forest has become this way, and why it is starting. The starting setup is the way it is, and why your faction behaves the way it does. So that is cool. The mechanics that your faction operates by make sense within that story. And for what character you are. So there's a vagabond, which is a little trash panda that
little raccoon
that slinks around in the forest clearings where no one else can be. He behaves very differently because he doesn't have any warriors in battle, but he collects things that he can trade to you. Like he's like a little.
He kind of collects garbage.
Yeah, he
in a
collects
way.
garbage to trade with
Yeah.
you. So he's like he is a trash panda.
Yeah, he's a raccoon. It's pretty cool.
And then there's the Eyrie, which I think of as like these regal, like almost the royalty of the forest that operate by the decree, which stands above everything else. So even they will follow the decree, even if it leads to
Turmoil.
their demise.
Yeah, they're all really cool, and you can get some really cool immersive stuff. One of my favorites is the Woodland Alliance, and they are like guerrilla warriors. They just kind of pop up in a clearing, and they just destroy stuff really fast, and then they go away, and then they pop up later, and they destroy stuff. And so I think that's really fun that they all, because they play so different. There's some really cool, not written down stories that are told, but like throughout the game, you can have some cool memories created.
Yeah, and those mechanics mimicking the story are really awesome. So it's pretty immersive, and we like that the rule book gives you like a history thus far, and then depending on how the game plays out, you kind of write history and what happens in the forest. The artwork on the cards and board is cool. These creatures are depicted somewhat adorably.
Yeah,
They're cute.
It's very cartoony.
They're very adorable. They're very cute. And as Christian mentioned, it's a war game at heart. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's so deceptive because I think of this and like Everdell, which are both woodland creatures. And it's just like, oh, let's play woodland creature game, guys. And, Everdell is cute because you build a town and there's crows and bunnies and squirrels. Yeah. And in this one, there's crows and bunnies and squirrels, but they kill each other.
Yeah, they really do.
So it's really neat. The art, it's a deceptive quality.
Yeah. This is definitely not the most immersive game we have in our collection, but it does a good job of being pretty immersive.
Yeah.
Okay. Next category. Is it fun? And this is probably the most vague category in the sense that things can be fun for different reasons. There'd be like, oh, are we having fun playing a drinking game? Or are we having fun like thinking and being rewarded for strategy? And so we usually do a lot of explaining of what we mean in this category.
What do you mean by fun?
Is this game fun, Christian?
I have fun playing this game for the most part. I lose a lot.
He almost always loses.
I would say 99%. I've never won this game. Let's be honest.
Really?
Yeah, and there's no way. No way. I think I got close. I was the lizard, the religious zealot lizards one time, and I got close. But beyond that, I've never gotten close.
Do you remember when you played the lizards? Maybe it was probably the first time you played them, and you didn't get over 5 victory points?
No. I don't remember that. I put that one quickly out of my mind. Thank you.
Oh, treat yourself to a Starburst.
Oh, Starburst.
Okay.
That means you have to talk.
Okay, well, I don't know what you were going to say, but it is fun. I will say it is more fun the more you play it, because when you're first starting out, you're so focused on rules and learning how to play a specific faction that it can only be so fun. So as you get more fluid and smooth, as it gets less clunky, should we say?
Yeah, smooth out that clunk.
Smooth it out. It gets more fun. And
we have to lower the curve, right? Or what is it called? Lower the curve?
Nope.
What do we do? What are we doing?
Are we flattening?
Yeah, we have to flatten the clunk.
Flatten the clunk. Alrighty. So I would also say it probably gets more fun the more people that play.
Yeah, I am so looking forward to playing this game. Mm-hmm. No offense, with more than you.
No offense taken. Because I feel the same way.
Because the reason I have so much fun with this game is because it fits into my problem with games.
It's not a problem. Well, it's just your personality.
It's how I experience games and entertainment. I'm always looking for like the new experience. Mm-hmm. So there are 6 factions that we own because we do have one expansion to this game. And that means I could play this game 6 times and do something completely different every time.
Yep.
And I kind of have, except for I've never been the cats, which is like the main one that you see everywhere, the orange, grumpy cats that the meeples look like. I've never been them, but everything else I've tried at least once, and it's awesome. I have what I think will be my favorites once I play with more than 2 people.
Yeah.
So I am definitely looking forward to those. Do you want to know what you do want to know what those are? Okay, I'll let you know.
Oh, okay. Christian's going to tell us.
I'm really looking forward to playing the Riverfolk Company, which is the Otters. They're an expansion one.
With more people. With
more people, because they're traitors, not traitors.
Not like a Benedict Arnold.
Yeah, or Finn, FN2187 from Star Wars. They are traitors, so they go up and down the river on the map, and you can buy their services. So it's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And then I do like the Woodland Alliance because they play so differently. Everybody plays differently, but this one, and honestly, you know what? Let's just keep going. The Vagabond is really cool too because it's so different than anything else. So I just have a lot of fun trying all the other strategies for each faction.
Would you say that directly impacts your ability to not win?
No, I'm really good at games. I win most of the games I play.
No, I'm serious. Like, don't you think that the fact that you play a new faction almost every time?
Oh yeah, no, it's
contributes to the fact that you can't win.
Yeah, and that's probably why I don't win a lot of the games I play in general. Mm-hmm. Beyond Root, I'm just like, oh, I've never done this in this game, so let's just do it. And then I don't master a lot of things. Jack of all trades, master of none.
You're a true Renaissance man.
You know what? I am.
I think as long as you're okay with it, I think that's great.
Yeah, I'm okay with not winning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this game is definitely not a great 2-player experience. So if like the fun factor, I'm thinking of, we can only speak to the 2-player experience, which can fall short, especially since certain factions are like essentially unplayable with only 2 players.
Yeah, like the river people that I mentioned, like you can't play it with just 2 people because it is all dependent on other people buying stuff from you. And if it's just 2 people, well,
I'm going to choose not to buy stuff from you.
Yeah, and then I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to go watch something else while you just play Root against me.
But we dream, a couple can dream of having a consistent Root group.
Root group.
that meets and plays this.
That's right. That's the goal, right? After this is all over.
And this is not just a perfect game for you because you like a new experience every time. It's a perfect game for me as well because I can perfect a specific faction.
And you found one really early that you love.
Yeah. There are a couple that I don't mind playing, but I have like consistently been intrigued and trying to perfect the Eyrie.
Yeah, which are the birds, the bird faction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just like it intrigues me, the strategy of, for those of you that know, or for those of you that don't know, you can buy the game, play it, and then you'll know.
Yeah, there you go.
But the intriguing part for me about the Eyrie is that you have to go into turmoil at some point. So when and how and that whole question is intriguing to me because I think it's interesting that I can control my demise in a way that works for me, so that not losing the game demise, but like going into turmoil, I can control that.
Your individual play style is like you choose a leader, and like leaders in like old kingdoms or whatever, eventually they lose power and they either die or he can't do what he's supposed to do anymore. And so in this game as the birds, eventually you're not going to be able to fulfill what this leader says you should do. Mm-hmm. And so that leader goes away and you have to get a new one.
So it's very intriguing to me, and I like that opportunity to perfect that. So it is fun. I wouldn't say we're all like laughing and having a great time. And maybe if you play, most certainly, if you play with more than 2 people, probably there's a sweet spot of like 5, maybe, I'm thinking, or 4 or 5, maybe.
4 to 5. I would love to try 6 just to see how crazy that would be.
This board is going to get packed, and there's going to be a lot of fights. There's going to be a lot of direct competition. Maybe even throw in a couple alliances that can get on your nerves, a couple factions that keep popping up when you don't want them to pop up. And then you've got a game where people could get butthurt real quick. So I don't know.
That's true.
If maybe the fun factor can diminish depending on who you're playing with. It'll be interesting to discover when we, in the future, create our Root group. Root group.
That's right. # Root group.
Who wants to be part of our Root group?
Yeah, if you're local to Gilbert, Arizona, let us know.
We will meet with you after all of this COVID-19 is over.
That's right.
Okay. I was going to say chapter 5.
Yeah, chapter 5. So our last section that we talk about is, was all this worth it? Everything we talked about, put a big stamp or bow on it. Was this worth it?
Was this game worth it to us?
Right now, yeah. I think it was worth it. For a few reasons that I'll touch on. Number one, it's so dang popular. Like, I felt like we had to do it. And I'm not mad that we bought it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not disappointed that we bought it, and we quickly realized that for a 2-player experience, it just doesn't have enough.
Correct. I would agree.
Yeah. But we did figure it out that once we added the River Folk expansion, and we brought in the Mechanical Marquee, which is a bot or an automa or whatever you want to call it.
That was key.
Of the cat faction, that opened up way more experiences for us.
Yeah, the core box was underwhelming, I think. For a 2-player experience, the core box just didn't do it for us. And this is one of those games where, at least the core box, I'll say, it says you can play it 2 to 4. And you can technically play a 2-player game, but it's obviously not created for 2 players. Do you know what I mean? Like, you start playing it 2 players and you're like, this can't be the full experience. Like, there's something missing. And maybe, well, you can probably speak to this a little bit more, but the game even kind of acknowledges that, and where the faction combinations come in.
Yeah, I think because there are so many factions now, and like in we're talking about this, is we have the core box and we have one expansion. There is another expansion that was on Kickstarter last year that is either just released or will be released, and that adds 2 more factions to the game, and they're all weighted. And so in the back of this Law of Root rulebook, which we so loved earlier, it does give values to each faction, and it just says, like, so if you want to play with 4 people, you need to pick factions that give you 21 points, and each of the factions are broken down into a certain amount of points.
Yeah, so it will say, like, hey, you need to have at least 17 points when you play a 2-player game, and then it'll list the points values for each faction. And then you quickly realize that only gives you 3 choices.
Yeah, and one of them we don't even have because it's from that new expansion.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is underwhelming if you're talking 2-player, and if you mostly play 2-player, there's way better 2-player games out there than Root.
Oh yeah.
Or if you're mostly a solo player, there's way better solo player games out there than Root, because now it has expanded to have a solo variant. I wouldn't say that the solo game here is outstanding. So that's just my 2 cents. I think there's better 2-player and better solo games out there, but overall we're really happy we bought it.
Yes. Because
we intend to have a Root group.
Root group. And there are some things that they're doing to improve this. There are other bots that are out there. So in the expansion we bought, it does have the Marquis de Cat, which is, or not the Marquis de Cat, Mechanical Marquis, which makes the cats an automatic player. But then on BGG, there's something called the Better Bot Project for this game. And I think, I could be wrong, Leader Games is working with them to release new bots for the game. So they have a bot for the Eerie, the Alliance, and then the Vagabond. So they have all the core factions set up and ready to go for bots.
That's cool.
So we haven't tried that other than the one we have. So there is probably more variety out there that we haven't experienced yet. It's just fun. It's not as fun playing with bots because essentially we're playing 2 players. Like if there's 2 bots and you and I, we'd each have to play another player.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, well, that's just not fun.
Right.
Or as fun. But I get, well, that's why they do it.
Yeah.
So there's definitely stuff out there that helps with that solo experience and expanding on the 2-player game. And then we don't even have that last expansion, so we can't really talk to that.
Yeah, that's Crows and Moles.
Yeah, the Underground Duchy and the Corvid Conspiracy. These names are just crazy. Crazy cool? I don't know.
They're interesting. There's a lot of thought put into this game. And as we've said in previous episodes of our podcast about different games, you know, when something has an expansion, that always intrigues our interest. So it always comes up, and is it worth it? We're always like, well, it has an expansion. And
Usually that means the game has been successful.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure the reason that this game is so successful is not based on the 2-player experience.
Oh, no. It's the war game core mechanic. You know what I mean? Like, in a disguise of a woodland creature game.
Yeah.
Because I think it's pretty cutthroat.
It is cutthroat, but these creatures are so cute.
That's true. I mean, and one thing that this game has done outside of Root is I think it's made us more of a fan of Leader Games. Uh-huh. Leader Games has the St. Paul connection, which, if you've been listening to us for 13 episodes, you know we're from Minnesota originally. Mm-hmm. So we love every story that's coming out of Minnesota. Minnesota's becoming like this weird,
gaming capital, kind
yeah,
of.
So we got Fantasy Flight up there, Leader Games, and there's this one
Asmodee, that's right.
Yeah, there's one called like Chip Theory Games that's up there, and they do really cool games. I'm trying to think of what it's called, but of course it's slipping my mind right now. But there's a lot of cool stuff coming out of Minnesota. We're looking forward to Oath by Leader Games. Mm-hmm. There's one which I don't think I've told you about called Fort by Leader Games. Oh, cool. It's like a card game where you build it's the same art style as all their games, the kind of cartoony weirdness, but you build like a fort, like a childhood fort with these cards. It's based on another game. That one, of course, is not coming to mind right now either, but I definitely have my eyes on everything that Leader Games is doing.
Yeah, good job, Leader Games. This Root, you can tell with all the intricate details of mechanics functioning completely different for each faction. I mean, I just can't imagine the play testing that went into making sure that all these factions worked in and of themselves, but then
are somehow balanced in a way.
But then came to the board and worked together. I mean, that's quite a feat, just a mental and creative feat. So, bravo. Leader Games, good job.
Yeah, we love it. We're looking forward to now anything you guys do.
Yeah, it's true. All right, so when we come back, we're going to talk about what we learned about each other or our marriage.
Well, that was Root.
We're going to be talking about what we learned about each other in our marriage.
Yeah. So what did we learn?
Well, I think the first thing that pops into my mind based on things we've talked about before is that this is a pretty competitive game.
Yeah.
You called it a war game.
It is. It's a big time war game. Now, it's not a very much of a war game with two people, which we mentioned, but it still has the main core of it is to get you out of the way, you get me out of the way, and you do that by fighting.
Mm-hmm. And if you've listened to our podcast before, you might have picked up on the fact that that is not my thing. I do not usually like that. I have this kind of arbitrary scale of like soft competitive all the way to like aggressive
to no way to GTFO.
Yeah, and I usually just really can't stand games that get into the more aggressive or directly competitive. But this one doesn't rub me the wrong way yet.
Okay.
And so I've been trying to think of like why that is.
Probably because you're winning every game.
It might be that. It might be that I'm winning all the time.
Is that Christian keeps on playing different factions and has no idea what he's doing until you have 26 points and then the game's over.
Yeah. Although I have lost every single solo game.
That's true, but I think the mechanics of that cat thing is pretty overpowering.
That's a good way to put it. So maybe it's that's not a non-point. Maybe it is the fact that I'm winning all the time.
Could be. But you still, like you said, the majority of how you have played this game is solo. And you're still losing those, and you're going back for more.
Yeah. So I've been trying to think about, like, why is this one not rubbed me the wrong way? Maybe it's because we have only done a 2-player version, and maybe as it gathers more and more players to the table, it would be kind of like a it's fun till it's not fun experience, where I'd be like, okay, well, everyone's destroying me or ganging up on me, or I'm not getting the alliances I want, or nobody's using my stuff properly.
Yeah.
And that would be frustrating beyond belief, and then it wouldn't be fun anymore.
I've heard that this game is best when everyone plays aggressive.
Okay. And you know what? I'm kind of willing to do that on this game. And okay, so here's my first thought, is that even when fighting is involved, the overall goal of the game is not to fight. The goal of the game is to get 30 victory points.
Yep.
So that I can get on board with.
Okay.
Like, as opposed to a game that I have a lot of issues with in the competitive realm, Star Wars Destiny.
R.I.P.
Too soon? Okay.
Maybe.
All right. Well, I would just say, the Star Wars Destiny triggers a lot of bad emotions for me in the competitive realm, because it is about, the goal is for me to kill and eliminate your players. That is the goal. The goal in Root is to get 30 victory points. If I have to battle you to do so, I mean, tough.
So it's like Keyforge. Keyforge is a race to get your keys.
Yeah.
And if you have to battle to do it, or to stop me to do it,
Yeah.
you're down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that softens it a little bit, because it always comes back to, in my head, it always comes back to, what is the goal? What am I trying to do? Will this fight help me in my goal? Will building this roost help me in my goal? Or all those things. So maybe that's another reason.
Yeah.
Also, maybe you need to help me describe this part. Because all the factions are so different in mechanic and how they play and what they're trying to do, beyond we're all trying to get 30 victory points. How they get the victory points, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
When I lose, I don't really feel like you necessarily played better.
Okay.
Because we were just playing so different. Like, it's like comparing apples and oranges. So usually when you lose a game, it's like, wow, that person was better at the game than me. Or at least on that night they were. But I feel like when I lose Root, it's like, well, maybe if you would have been playing my faction, you would have lost too. Because this plays so differently than how you just played.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, with everything that we talked about earlier in the episode, it is so different that I could have a terrible night playing, the river people, and somehow squeak out a win, and you did everything correct, but still didn't win. Like, yeah.
It's interesting to think about, because even though I've never won a solo game, I do feel objectively and also subjectively, just within my emotions, that I have games where I have just felt better about how I played. Like, oh, I got better at the Eyrie just now. Like, I played them better. So I lost. Yeah, I lost.
But you reacted to the situation better than you did last time.
Yeah.
You're making steps to being the perfect bird.
The perfect bird. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how my thoughts develop on the directly competitive nature of this once we have our root group. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that as well. I was trying to think of something else that I could add to the conversation about what we learned about each other, but I think you're
really looking forward to being annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I can see the little glimmer in your eye. He's really looking forward to like playing these factions that
are annoying.
Are like pop up or even like the otters that go up and down the river. Like, oh, you want to trade with me for that thing? I know you're in a vulnerable spot, so I'm gonna make that worth 4.
Yeah,
Like a really expensive thing.
yeah.
He's gonna be an annoying player to play Root with.
I'm looking forward to the non-traditional like play styles.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have very traditional play styles where it's just like get a bunch of guys, go to this place, fight, put down your flag. Get a bunch of more guys, go to the next place, fight, put down your flag, and so and then I enjoy the ones that are a little bit different than that, where it's not as straightforward. And I think that lends to like the new experience type. Like we've all played Risk, however many times you play Risk.
Yep.
For me, it's been 3 in my life.
But it took up a third of your life.
That's right. It's been more than 3, but we all know how that works. So you just get the most guys in one place, and then you win.
Yeah.
And some of the Root is like that, and it's that those different experiences that I tend to lean towards. So, looking forward to it.
Maybe we'll have to do an update on this one once we have our Root group.
Yeah, I think this is a good one to maybe talk about again in like a year or something, just to see if it's still going strong in the community. It's, you know, as a whole, if it's still going strong with us, if we do have that group together, like how many more expansions they have for Root in a year. Like they just keep on finding new animals.
It's not just that, but you got to find like mechanics that work together.
That's true.
And that's what's blowing my mind. But yeah, this is kind of a section where we usually have completed thoughts, and right now I think this is just kind of like a half-baked thought, like we're wondering.
Yeah, because our experience is so limited with just it being us two, we can't bring other people in. We could talk about is we did play this game on Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah, oh yeah, we did with a third person, our friend,
and we taught him how to play through Discord and TTS, and it went probably as good as it could have.
Yeah, now he
destroyed us.
He is a gamer. He has a solid gaming background.
Solid gaming background, Jason. Super solid.
Do you like how I described that? It's the highest compliment I can pay. So this was not a stretch to teach him this game.
Yeah, and it was definitely more fun. But again, they had the whole TTS thing where it just wasn't as fun as it would have been sitting around our dining table.
I think that's the one where you didn't even get beyond 5 victory points.
Yeah, I was the electrical lizards.
Yes,
through the internet.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Whatever.
Oh man. So maybe we'll complete our thoughts on this category in future episodes.
Yeah, let's do it.
To be continued.
TBC.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks for sticking with us as we wrap up this podcast. We always like to end with a question that we ask our listeners. Last week, we asked about what are you playing now that there's some quarantine time going down, or are you even playing? And how does your experience playing games look different? Yeah, so shout out to everybody who responded. We wanted to highlight a few of them. Our friend JR, who is My Arm is Colder Than Yours. We've talked about him before. He's our Instagram friend. And he mentioned that we have to play Arkham Horror, the card game. He was one of those that I mentioned, was like, you need to play this. And he yelled at me for not playing it. And I did it, okay? I bought it. And I am having a lot of fun playing it, so thank you. He's been doing a lot of that as well. And if you check out his Instagram, they're posting a lot. And he plays with his wife as well. I know, one of us. So yes, he twisted your arm. Yeah, it didn't take much. All right, and then we got a message from Ryan, who has been talking about also playing Arkham LCG and Marvel Champions during social distancing. Yep. And so, those are great games that we now have both of them in our collection. Par for the course. So we say hear to your suggestions. And he asked us about dexterity games.
And we realized we've played maybe a couple dexterity games, but I don't think we own any.
No, we don't. He said he's been playing SEAL Team Flicks, which sounds awesome. I haven't even looked at what that is, but just based on the name, it sounds cool. What should we play if we play a dexterity game?
This is what we need to know.
I know there's a lot of like balancing ones. Those aren't fun.
Jenga? You're not going to play Jenga?
Like the ones when someone says dexterity game, I think of like flicking stuff. So like obviously SEAL Team Flicks, but then there's also like Flick 'em Up. Have you seen that on Instagram at all, Angela?
No, I'm thinking of like cat stacks and dog stacks.
What is that?
They're just at the end caps at Target where
Okay.
you literally try to stack cats and dogs, I think.
Like the pig in a barrel thing, like the dice one?
As you can see, we are very versed in
Yeah,
dexterity games.
We need help. So this is not the question of the week, but like, what should we play if we're going to play a dexterity game? Let's just say there's another gift card burning a hole in my pocket again, and I need something to buy. What would you suggest for dexterity games? This goes to Ryan specifically, and also anyone else who's listening. So thanks again, Ryan. Also, huge shout out to our friend Zach from New Zealand. What did Zach do?
I mean, Zach, we really don't like to play favorites, but I think you might have taken the cake on this one. He wrote in, said that he found our podcast a few weeks back while searching for a new board game podcast. Love that. And that he is also a dad of 2 young kids, so he relates to our situation, or Christian's situation specifically. And that he went and he answered all 10 of the episode's questions that he had listened to that at that time.
Yeah, so when he emailed us, he had listened to episode 10, which was Chronicles of Crime, and he went back from the very beginning and answered all 10 episodes of questions. That didn't make sense. Clear that up.
Yeah, so he took each episode, the question we asked, and he wrote a paragraph on it, and it was amazing. I mean, my favorite part is that he told us what he was going to do in the beginning of and he said, strap in.
Yep. Yeah, and we did.
I was like, I am strapped in. I'm ready to go.
I think it's awesome because I was not a good student at school, and I don't think I wrote a paper in college that was this long.
Zach, you
Nailed it.
And he said at the end, sorry and you're welcome.
Yeah, and then a couple of my favorite things that he did say, that I just wanted to highlight. He loves Star Realms. Star Realms is pretty great. You can get that at Target. Personally, I've never played it, but I think I tried the digital version when it was free. So he's really into that, and he loves Chronicles of Crime is one of his favorites, and he realizes that for us it wasn't one of our favorite games.
So it made him sad.
Yeah, it's still a great game. It's just not one of our favorites.
Well, and I would say, Zach, we thought Chronicles of Crime was a great experience. Ooh. Just not a game.
Yeah.
So don't be discouraged.
There we go. He loves D&D podcasts, which I got a suggestion for him. If you're listening, Zach, check out Dungeons and Daddies podcast.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was snoring. What were you saying?
You made the worst face I've ever seen you make before. Anyways, listen to a couple episodes of that, and then let me know how you feel. I think it's hilarious. Highly inappropriate at times, but it's really funny. So Zach, big shout out. I don't even know. I'm giving you like praise hands behind the microphone, and I realize you can't see that. We love that you
praise hands, Zach.
We love that you took the time to write to us, and I love how you ended the email saying like, I will write you again in 10 more episodes on episode 20 with another novella of answers.
Love it.
So we are looking forward to that. We appreciate that, and we appreciate everyone who does reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter and email. We always love hearing from our listeners.
We really do. I mean, I can't tell you how much we enjoy the interaction of the whole board game community, whether it's through Instagram or email, even if it's not about a question we specifically ask on our podcast. But you should know that when we get these feedback emails, we immediately Well, now we're with each other, so
all the time.
We run into the next room and we're like, "Did you see we got an email? Did you see we got an email?"
Yeah.
And we read it together because we're excited.
We had to take turns on Zach's because it was so long. We were getting out of breath. But let's move on to this week's question. This is another quarantine focused question. What game are you most looking forward to playing in your game group or with family and friends once this is all over?
Yeah.
Obviously, Angela and I we're stuck together through this.
I mean, we're cherishing every minute we have
through this whole
together.
moment, through this whole thing. So I want the question to be like beyond who you're in your house with. Like when you have your friends over for the first time after this is all over, what are you guys going to play?
What's your answer?
I think for us, after this podcast, for me, it's Root. I'm not looking forward to teaching it to other people because it is so involved, but I just need to play this game with more than 2 people.
I thought you were going to say D&D.
I'm not on a D&D kick right now.
Okay.
I enjoy it, but right now it's just not my thing, and maybe that's the coldness of board games that it's just like, I just don't want to do that right now.
Okay. All right. I think I'm just looking forward to, I mean, I guess I could probably pick out games that I would not want to play, but in general, I'm just looking forward to being around the table with people again, regardless of what the game is.
I have so many unwrapped Starbursts for all my friends.
Oh my goodness,
when
so
they come
many.
over.
So many. He's just unwrapping Starbursts in preparation.
That's right.
So
so please answer that question or just ask us any question you want over at Instagram at Married and Bored. Our email address is hello@marriedandbored.com, and you can find us on Twitter as well. But I think that does it.
That does it. Thanks for sticking around for this slightly longer episode.
Yeah, I was looking at our episode links before we started this, and we're like, it's like every other. It's like long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short.
Oh, it's a pattern.
It is a pattern. Our 6-year-old would have caught onto that.
Yep. And just so you know, before every single recording, Christian goes, I don't think I have much to say about this game to this time. And then he ends up talking about it for a long time.
Yep, sorry.
He's a man of few words, but he has a lot of big thoughts. So we will look forward to meeting you over the microphone for our next episode.
Yeah, and I think we'll plug it again. We're going to try to do a special episode on solo board games that is outside our normal release schedule. So maybe in a week, maybe in 10 days, but maybe in a week.
Yes, hang in there for that.
TBD.
Until then, stay healthy.
Yeah, have
Stay
fun,
safe,
guys.
friends.
Play some games.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Married and Bored podcast. And guess what? We have a website where you can listen to podcast episodes and so much more. Find us at marriedandbored.com, or you can email us at hello@marriedandbored.com, or follow us on Instagram at marriedandbored. Music in this episode is by Joseph McDade. See you next time. Minnesota. You gotta delete that.